What's going on? Hello. Oh. Ew, I feel like I just got a butterfly. Why did I just get a butterfly? I just got a butterfly in my stomach for no reason. I was at work. I think it was Thursday. I was down in the lab and my coworker was there, and I was like, I got a craving for string cheese. So I turned to my coworker. I was like, I just got a random craving for string cheese. And she was like, Are you pregnant, Patrick? I was like, if I am, it's immaculate conception because oof. This is awkward. That's awkward AF. I guess it could be figurative, right? Because I am, as far as I know, biologically, anatomically male. As far as I know, I'm incapable of being impregnated. Um, I'm gonna grab the S. Oop, 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 oop. I'm gonna grab the SKT. I'm grabbing both versions because I don't know which one I want. So I'm over here like my coworker's like, Patrick, are you pregnant? I'm shuffling the all winter oracle cards, and the yes card came out. That's why I was like, oh, like, excuse me. And then the bottom of the deck is preparations with the hearts and the XOXO. And magical practitioner is behind preparations. Okay. So it's like it's more like spiritually, obviously, because like I said, as far as I know, I am not capable of getting pregnant. Um, I would be surprised if I was. I don't even know, like. Anyway. Oh my gosh! So I'm shuffling and I'm picking up the cards, and there's one. I haven't seen this card yet. There's one card still on the table. It was at the bottom of the deck. It's still a yes. Oh, yes, and it's still a yes. Oh my gosh, I'm shook. Okay, all right. So anyway, it is funny though because it was well, maybe about a month and a half ago, a month ago now, a few weeks ago. My mom told me that she had a dream that I was pregnant, and she was like, "Well, it could be like a metaphorical pregnancy because But this deck is like, yeah, you're pregnant. I'm like, but I'm like, I don't have the anatomy. It's still like you're still pregnant. I'm like, okay, all right, well, three cheers for immaculate conception, I guess. Magical practitioner came out again. Personal celebrations at the bottom of the deck with self determination. Kuja Chagalia under that. Personal celebration. This is interesting because the candles for Kwanzaa are green and red, and then I think there's one black candle. And the colors green, black, like there's a green candle and a black candle. And then there's a person with a crown on in red. So it's almost like she is the candle in the personal celebration card. Which is interesting. Because, let me see. I'm gonna assume. So, okay. Interesting. Interesting. I never did the Pride reading. Did I? I didn't. I think I'm gonna do that. I might. I might not. I'm like, I don't know what this deck is. We don't know. Tis the season for miraculous things to occur. Apparently, the miraculously unexpected. Dreamscape. The fireworks have already begun. I mean, fireworks have been going for a hot minute now. Oh, snap, Eva, Holly, how are y'all doing today? Congratulations on hitting like 420. Or you might be at 500 now. I was going to leave a comment, but I was trying to be incognito on the Pisces video. Excuse me. But yeah, it's been a while. Have I been live? I don't think I. Oh, I was live recently ish. I saw my grandma yesterday, and she was like, "Wow, so you just like forgot about me or something like that." And I was like, "Oh wow, well, yeah, it's been a minute since I saw my grandma." She called me and she's like, "Oh, I haven't talked to you in a while. I need some help cleaning my car. I'll be there in 5 minutes." I'm like, "Oh, okay, so you're just using me. It's fine." No, but we went to eat and it was nice. Yeah, I forgot. Are you feeling better? I'm assuming you're feeling better. I mean, I don't think I've made too many videos since the last time. I think I'm gonna actually do. I'm gonna do 2 crosses. I'm gonna do a Vitruvian cross, and I'm gonna do a Revelations cross. I'll do the Vitruvian on the left, the Revelations on the right, and then I want to put something in the middle as a mirror. I don't know if I want to use the all oracle, the all winter oracle cards. Yeah, I was seeing just now getting back to normal, still hacking though. Oh gosh. Well, I'm glad you're getting back to normal. What was it? Did you say it was a fever or something last time? Because I remember you said you were gonna go lay down because the headache was coming back, but I don't remember. And I've been seeing the videos pop up. I think you just started a new series, right? Was it today or yesterday? Because the thumbnail was different. I was like, oh, did she already run through like the whole zodiac on that last series? Excuse me. So I'm gonna just cut this. Ooh. And pull off the top. Oh, snap. Oh, wow. Excuse me. Well, doubly glad you're feeling better. Hopefully, um, there aren't any like lingering. Nothing lingers. There you go. Hopefully, nothing lingers. You're alive, hey! Glad to see that you're still with us, and that it's not just a bunch of queued up videos on your channel. Like, yeah, I got 5 years of content set to release, and then we're like, wait, where's Eve? It's like, oh, she moved to Tahiti like 3 years ago. Yeah. Ouch. Okay, let me do this. The nocturne to this is interesting. I mean, it isn't. Ooh, love the Six of Wands on this. Oh, and the Emperor. Love the energy of success. And the Eight of Wands. This is very fiery. Um, but it feels like the Ouroboros is stopping these two worlds from colliding. The Two of Pentacles in this deck is all about navigating transition and making the transition between worlds as smooth as possible. From experiences, from one set of experiences to another. You're gonna take that idea away. I would do the same, but I'd have to record the videos. So yeah. I think, is there any series that I've actually finished? I don't know. I got some that have been outstanding for years at this point. There's this noise. So before I went live, I was like, let me just listen. And it sounded like grass growing, but like fast. And then later I was like, let me listen again. And it's this noise that's like, I think it's like a heavy rain. It's almost like static, but it's not static. So I think it's heavy rain. I just heard it again. And a thunder rumble. Oh, snap. Or lightning. Yeah, thunder. A rumble of thunder. A crack of lightning. And I know around here it's been dry. It's been so dry. We're hoping that, well, one of my coworkers was talking. She was like, it's so dry. Hopefully people aren't lighting fireworks and then the yards go up because the grass is so dry. You deal. 3 to 5 to 6. The Nine of Wands just came out. Moon and Sagittarius. But I think that's the Moon Scarab combination on the Eight of Cups, maybe? This is some like fierce crone gatekeeper type energy. Yeah, this feels like some kind of chrome gatekeeper energy. Because, like, look at her standing in between the wands, holding both. This person's like kneeling and praying. I'm not going to say praying to her, but And then there's the wolf from the moon again that's howling. It feels like she's. And then there's like this entire ancient city behind her with the scarabed moon up there. My head kind of hurts a little, but it's fine. It's fine. I would actually love to go to Finland. It might happen someday. It might not, but it might. Ooh, whoa, snap. A pugilist is, as far as I know, it's a boxer. Um, so like on Final Fantasy, there's a monk class that specializes in hand-to-hand combat. I think is it the pugilist and then the monk, or is it the monk and then the pugilist? I think the pugilist. Yeah, there you go, boxer, like hand-to-hand combat. I think pugno is Latin for fight. What is pugno? It might not be. One second. Pugno, Latin. Contend, conflict, oppose, contradict. Okay. So, yes. Yep, dispute, fight. Pugno. Pugilist. It's a fighter. No problem. The card at the bottom. So we have, and like the Six of Wands behind this and the Emperor heavily implies a successful transition. And with the Eight of Wands, like there's a celerity to it. I'm trying to get these back in the right order. At the bottom of this side is the Keeper. You took Latin? Lots of lines in high school. I took Latin in high school too. I only remember a few things. Um, the Keeper is at the bottom of this deck. And it's interesting how her stands in a way. Yeah, it does. It mirrors hers. But she's got these two trees of life or Merkabas. I don't know what they are. I can't tell. They might be Merkabas, they might not be. These two symbols. These two symbols on the sides. And then we see the two ravens and the dove sort of in between. The golden raven for the silver hand, the silver raven for the golden hair, the hand, the golden dove. There's the Merkaba. I'm like, okay. And then it's the, so there's a 6 and an 8 at the bottom of both of these, right? Because it was the 2, the 6 of Wands, the Emperor, the 8 of Wands. And in this, the Scarabed Moon, I mentioned, I think it's on the 8 of Cups and the Moon card, but the 8 of, so behind the Seeker is this 6 of Orbs, the Giver. And behind that is the 8 of Cups. So we got the Moon in Taurus sextiling Saturn and Pisces. Behind that, and the 8 of Cups in this deck has the dove like emerging from the moon. The dove is on the moon instead of the scarab. And it's not the same as this golden dove, but it's almost like if the dove can make it through this portal, it's like the gold around it, like it wraps around the dove and it becomes this golden dove on the other side. Like if it can make it through. And then behind that, we get our major. So we got our 6, 8, and a major. Our major this time is Apocalypse, which is Judgment in this deck. But we see the silver and the gold sort of like curled around each other, entwined. We see the Tree of Life, the Alpha and the Omega. So it's almost like these two cards carry the symbolism of the birds, with the dove and those two birds entwined. But then that just leaves the giver, moon in Taurus. This also brings the element of fire. And if we include the seeker that has the element of air, all four elements are present. But it's like we need planets to access the energies of water and fire, which are water and earth, which are like receptive. So it's almost like there has to be something in that space to reflect out the energy instead of it all getting sucked into it. But the mirror for Earth is the moon, which naturally does that. The mirror for water is Saturn, which would be a problem because Saturn doesn't feel like Saturn has that same reflective emittive energy. Like Jupiter, maybe Mars, I can see. But Saturn, and then you like it's the whole like Saturn was the sun before the sun was the sun, so it doesn't reflect, it more so would emit. So this would only be a problem if we need Saturn to reflect something back to us. This works because of Saturn being the old sun. And it works because this is Pisces. It's almost like if you were to try to shine a light into the abyss, the light would all like dissipate before it hits the mirror. So you need something that like carries a light inside, and that's this. Or at least you need something emitting light to connect the two in between. They meet in the middle. And maybe with this 6 of Pentacles, they do meet in the middle. This is not what I signed up for. Wait, is Alpha and Omega a wolf cartoon? Hey Zelda, how you doing? This is interesting. I think I might actually go for the All Winter Oracle and just see. We're just going to see. I'm like trying to set this on my laptop and not push a bunch of buttons. Which is interesting. That part about Saturn is interesting because I have 2 Celtic crosses set up between. I got the Vitruvian edition on the left and the Revelations edition on the right. I'm gonna pull a few cards to see what the mirror is in between them and see. There was the 6 of Wands and the 6 of Pentacles. Well, we got Jupiter and Leo on this side. and then Aries, and then Mercury and Sagittarius. So this is all of the fire energy. All of the fire, Aries, and all of it's like the pure modality of Aries. But it's Leo through Jupiter and Sagittarius through Mercury. It's not as elementally balanced as the other side was, for sure. Oh, and then here's also Jupiter and Capricorn. Leo and Capricorn fixed cardinal. They don't square. It's Leo. Leo is 5, Capricorn is 10. So they in conjunct. Okay. All right. Or is it a sesqui? I forget what the word is. Well, they're 5 signs away. So it's like it can be kind of a oppositional energy sometimes. It can be kind of a trine energy sometimes. Um, I think it depends on their relationship. With Capricorn and Leo, I think it would depend on the relationship. I don't see those as being necessarily inherently supportive or um, combative. I feel like I would love Jupiter and Capricorn. It's like let's make sure we have a nice and solid foundation. Well, I think it would depend because it feels like Jupiter and Capricorn might run the risk of not actually finishing anything. It's kind of like me if I try to do too much. Do a little here, do a little there, do a little like it keeps doing a little everywhere, but it doesn't necessarily finish anything. And so when it comes time to build, it's like, oh, yeah. So the mirrors. Oh. Synchronicities is at the bottom of the deck. Synchronicities have been interesting. I was seeing repeating numbers for a minute and I talked about it last time. And then the day after that, I was seeing sequential numbers like 123. I saw a few times. And then I saw like, I was doing a reading and it was like 7.89. Um, the other day, like 2 days ago, Thursday or Friday. Um, Step parent, a thankless job, but needed. Oof. I think when I got to a certain age, I was able to appreciate um, my father, my stepfather, in a way that I wasn't when I was younger. But also when I was younger, it was a whole bunch of other stuff. So, you know, but yeah, it is can be a thankless job, which is unfortunate, especially when the love is there. Uh, but in time, I'm sure it comes around. This is interesting because now we have an actual red candle, and it's Imani, faith. And then I pulled the bottom. The bottom was spirit being, and I pulled the top. The top was path to love, which is interesting because it almost feels like, oops, oh, now it's on the floor. Oops, oh my gosh. If I could pick it up, it feels like because of the colors that like the path to love is like both of these, even though that's more like blues than white. Oh, there are some whites in there. But it's interesting that the faith comes out when personal celebrations came out earlier, but maybe that's just like these are different. So they don't necessarily carry over or bleed through. This feels different now. And maybe it's because of the path to love for a spirit being. I have an all winter oracle that I got from Bohemian Stars and Ocean Heart Readings, Hemi here on YouTube. She released a few other decks too. So this feels like it's like this is the space we reach when like the id and the ego come together. Like it's essentially like this is the result of shadow integration, basically. Um, and then after we become a completed being, we get access to the land of mysteries that lie beyond. That's how it's reading. Because that's like the bestial, egoic, um, primal nature of man. That's the civilized, whatever, you know. They come together in the crone, who is the gatekeeper to that energy. So it's not gate kept by like it's almost like it's not gate kept by an entity. It's gate kept by like once you reach the state of being. And it could just be it's like before you reach that level of integration, it's just inaccessible. If not at least partially inaccessible. And it makes me think of the title card. But it's like it's what happens when you get information before you've healed or integrated enough to be able to see the truth of it in its entirety. It's almost like, let's say that it's about a relationship and there's some relationship things that haven't been healed. And so it's like if you meet your perfect person, the person that you're going to spend the majority of your life with, your one or whatever, before you're ready for love, like that relationship will still probably fall apart because there are things within you that maybe you can't yet give, or things that you can't yet receive, or things that you can't yet work through constructively and like conversationally. And so they cause these like blow ups and self sabotage runs rampant and stuff like that. So like that's a case of like it's not necessarily like gate kept by a person. It's just like it's a space where that we need to be in to see something and to be able to interact with it in a healthy, manageable, but not manageable, sustainable way. In a healthy and sustainable way. So let's start in the middle. No, let's start close. We'll start close to the mirror. Oh, snap. This is interesting. Saturn strikes again. So on the Vitruvian side, and it's interesting because in the middle is faith. This is very interesting because we have the angel and then we have the burdened one. The angel, temperance, Sagittarius, the burdened one, 10 of wands, Saturn in Sagittarius. And I don't, it's not necessary. Well, it kind of sort of is reading like gate kept again. Because here's the angel blocking. I mean, I guess we could assume that the light is emanating from the crown of the angel, but it almost feels like that's not the case. Like the angel is actually standing in front of whatever the source of the light is here. And then on this side, it's like with all these rings and stuff in the middle, we have the burdened one that blocks like most of it, the rods. And see, it's like it's that silver and gold. Like this makes me think of the Keeper again. Like, how do I do it? Like that. Like either with the two hands or with the two birds, and then the golden dove being these at the bottom, being like our hands at the bottom. And then there's like this Atlas energy here that's holding it up. And then there's this like galaxy. I mean, we could call that the rings of Saturn. It feels more like a shape of a galaxy. It's reading galaxy today. It's interesting because it feels like a microcosmic, macrocosmic energy. And it feels like the burdened one. It feels like this is saying that we struggle to deal with the microcosmic. Like everything that we do, even from like an awakened perspective, like when we start to talk like galactic or like spirit, ethereal, energetic, like for us, it feels like we think that that's like this huge macrocosmic energy, like the macro scale. But it's like here in reality, that's still micro. It's slightly less micro. Like so, like we live on like nanoscale, if not like picoscale or femtoscale, like below nano. But like we live nanoscale, so our macro is actually micro. Like there are several magnitudes above and beyond that, which is almost like we see here with all of these like concentric rings and circles and stuff, right? The only one that we have complete access to is the one in the middle. Every other one is at least halfway blocked, if not more. I mean, it's probably a good 2/3 actually. And so it feels like in some way we try to push out further and further, but it feels like the angel is trying to get us to focus on the things like right in front of us in a way. Sagittarius, it's a teacher today. Well, it also has that higher education, philosophy, higher thinking, stuff like that, energy. And so it feels like what's interesting is like as above, so below. If we can get a more complete understanding on the micro scale, that understanding will translate and transfer to the macro. And so it feels like Saturn is actually like coming in to try to like help us focus on this. I have these. I might pull them for clarification. Oof, I might not because the title card was right here. Right at the top is the title card. Oof, okay. We'll see. We'll see. If I need to, I'll pull them. If I don't, I won't. If I'm desperate. So these are the closest cards to the mirror, to the line. So it's the right side. So it would be like the future and the Vitruvian, but the past in the Revelations. Because it's the right one on the left side, but the left one on the right side. Um, so now let's go to the middle. I'm actually going to flip all of these. Oh my gosh, the Nocturne. So this is the Vitruvian Nocturne. This is the Revelations Nocturne. And I feel like, again, I feel like this mirrors that macro micro energy, because for the Two of Pentacles that she balances, there are these two greater ones behind her. One of the sun, one of the moon, and the moon in all of its phases. But it's interesting that we see the moon as a whole, but surrounded by all of the phases. And again, it's another like blocked stand-in energy. So yeah, that gatekeeper energy is like legit, because everybody's standing in front of something. The middle, oops. Oh, okay. Okay. This was at the bottom. I'm trying to like find a place to put the bottom card that's like out of the way. Oh my gosh. This is one of those moments where it's like I wish I had like my other camera on so y'all could see. So the top on the Revelation side on the right is the necromancer, not the necromancer, it's the tension, Jupiter and Capricorn again. Two of orbs, Two of Pentacles. And then in the middle, in the heart, it's the Archangel of Healing, angel who salves and purifies. Which is interesting because, you know, we got this one. This is just an angel. And then at the bottom, in the foundation, is the necromancer, the moon. There's our scarabed moon that is back here. Also, this is moon in Sagittarius. With all like Sagittarian energy is heavy. It's not surprising though, because like our galactic center is in Sagittarius, like 17 degrees, I think. Yeah, the galactic center is in Sagittarius. So, um, ooh, yeah, it's too warm here, but it's not atypical for this time of year. So this is what we're working with on our central main axis. The tension for path to love. Oh, okay. The Archangel of Healing on faith. And then with spirit being, it's the necromancer. There's the heart being weighed against the feather. We have the two jackals. What's interesting about this is, though, it's usually we see Mayat with the scales of Anubis. Those scales belong to Anubis, but Ma'at is the one who does the weighing. In the necromancer card, Anubis is with his scales. So it's interesting because it's almost like this is something that is important enough for Anubis himself to be the one like either doing the weighing or witnessing the weighing. So I'd say that's huge. Also, this thing, it makes me think of Flissa. And Flissa for me is, it's a card of a wrong being righted or something not wrong being made correct, but it only happens through our discernment and through our input. It's almost like if we can't identify what's wrong or if we can't identify what's missing, and if we don't state it as such, then it won't be fixed. It won't be filled. Because it's like if we don't think anything needs to be changed, then it won't be type of energy. But Felissa will ask the question like, something's wrong, something's missing, isn't it? And then we go, at first we might say like, no, like everything is what it usually is. But then if we sit with it for a second, it might be like, oh, wait, it was just 45 on the runtime. Hey, speaking of 45 is a 9-9. 18 is another 9-9. We get the necromancer in its Vitruvian and in its Revelations form. That's a little spoiler. Like the necromancer literally came out over here. I was like, okay. So that's what all this not turned to a Pentacles type energy is. Back to whatever I was saying. That I forgot. Oh, if we can't identify it, yeah. Flirs is like, oh, something's wrong, something's missing. And it's like at first we might be like, oh, like I don't think anything is missing, but then it sits with us. And it's like maybe we pay a little bit more attention to our surroundings and our environment. Maybe we pay a little bit more attention to how we feel in our environment and in our surroundings. Maybe we pay a little bit more attention to how we feel within ourselves. And it's almost like with that one mention of like something being wrong or something being missing, it's almost like it's peeling at wallpaper. Like if they just found a super old Burger King that was left entirely intact and like inside of a mall or something. There was this one show I watched. It's just the energy of like a hidden room. Oh, that was another one. Did that one involve like alternate dimensions and time travel? The movie involved alternate dimensions. I can't remember if the show involved alternate dimensions and time travel or not. I don't think that one did. But it's like whenever someone wants to hide something within, speaking of Capricorn, within the structure of a building, all you have to do is like plaster over the doorway, put some drywall on it, put some wallpaper on it. You can make it indistinguishable from other walls. I was watching a show last night. I binge watched. I finally broke down and got Netflix, but it's fine. Oh, snap! Hey, Matt, how you doing? How are you, Matthew? Ooh, let me see. I'm going to search for this so I don't lose it. Um, it's like where they just like wall it over, but it feels like with Flusa being like something's wrong, something's missing. It feels like it starts to like peel at the wallpaper, or it starts to peel through the drywall or the plaster or whatever. And then it's like if you knock on the wall, you can hear where it's you can hear the hollowness on the other side. You can hear where it's not solid. So either you can like just start wrecking everything, or you can start knocking and listening. Like, where is it hollow? Because that's an entryway. And now I feel like that's this energy. But like if this was a wall and this was a wall, like let's talk old Hierophant. Or it's not old Hierophant. Because there's a part where it's like it could be intentional, but it doesn't matter if it is or if it isn't. Let's not get into the argument of like old Hierophant purposefully kept us from getting to know the divine at a greater, more intimate level because of the space that we would come into and because of the reliance that we wouldn't have on the Hierophant. Like, let's just avoid that whole thing by saying it doesn't matter if it was or was not intentional. It's kind of sort of what happened. So, like, imagine this is the truth of the connection. That's the us existing in oneness as oneness. And then this is us like trying to make peace with our primal need to survive and blah 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 whatever. So we pray that to this hierophant, to this whatever, she could be, she could not be. But imagine like this was a solid wall. This is Flissa. And it's like if we knock here, like we can tell that she is not these wands, right? Even the wands that she holds are different than the other ones. It's like that's where we would like break down the wall and we would notice everything that lies beyond on the other side. Shout out again to the moon, the scarabed moon that we see in both of these cards. But this makes me think of, I think it was the last reading I did, where it was like there's this energy and then there's this energy. Because of how I laid the cards out, it's inherently this. It's a mirror. But on the Vitruvian side, the moon necromancer comes out at the top, in line with Path to Love. On the Revelation side, it came in the foundation at the bottom, in line with Spirit Being. I could take a picture and show it to you. I'm going to take a picture and show you the picture of what I have so far. And then I'll set it as the thumbnail. Give me one moment. Oh. I don't even know if that was blurry. No, that's fine. So this is what it looks like. See the necromancer here and the necromancer down here at the bottom. This is the state of the cards right now. And I love that the burdened one on the Vitruvian side is being backed by the Archangel of Healing. Again, it feels like that Saturn trying to get us to focus on, it's almost like more where we are instead of reaching out and like reaching up. And it's like, it's fine to reach out and it's fine to reach up. But, and it's funny because I was talking about Beyonce Break My Soul with my mom a few days ago. And she was like, she talked about it with one of our cousins, and our cousin was like, she's making it seem like blah, 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 whatever. Like she's building, like, she was like, it sounds like she's doing all of that outside of like Jesus, and that's why she didn't like it. But it's like, it doesn't have anything to do with Jesus or any religious figure when she's talking about building her own foundation. Because there are a lot of Christians, there are a lot of spiritual people that could have a very strong faith, but a very weak sort of foundation. Because it's almost like all of the prayer, like everything goes up, but nothing comes back down. It's like nothing comes back inside, nothing builds us up. And so it feels like something is like limited. And of course, that's not everybody, right? But in general, when we have that over reliance on someone else or something else fixing everything for us or solving everything, and it's not that we have to be in control of everything, but it's almost like when we don't take on anything, our foundation within ourselves never gets built out. And it's almost like since our foundation never gets built, the relationship never deepens. Because it's almost like we stay as children or babies, because the baby card loves to come out in the All Winter Oracle. And so the Archangel of Healing is coming in to like unburden, to reduce and release some of this. And it feels like the way this makes me think of Key Cup. This makes me think of Queen Cup telling a story about the dude who got told to push the rock. And it's like God never said that the rock would move. But we would see that and be like, oh, like, I was tricked by spirit, blah, blah, blah. They lied, blah, 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 whatever. But it's like there's a purpose and there's a reason, there's a point behind everything. There can be a purpose, reason, and point behind things. Almost depending on what we do. It's almost like our actions give some things meaning. Like with Flusa, if we don't see that anything is wrong, if we don't ask for anything beyond what we already have with a sense of authority, then it's like nothing changes because it's like, well, nothing needs to change. Right? It's like if spirit asks you, do you need anything? And you say, no, I got this. It's like, okay, well, all right. Hey, Steph, how you doing? I saw your one video. The Watchers came out, like the Watchers kept coming out. The gatekeepers are here. um, but it feels like, I don't know if it's the power of perspective or if it's the power of like training, like weight training. It feels like this doesn't necessarily go away, but he becomes able to bear it with more, and it's not as much of a burden. It's almost like the weight is the same, but it's not a burden. It makes me think of the Ten of Wands that came out in the Tarot Apocalypsis that had a message that I don't even remember the last time I used it. What was it? I forget. It was something, whatever. I'm doing well. I wish I had more of my weekend to enjoy, but that's fine. I went into work today like I'm grateful to have a job. I would rather not have to come in on a Sunday, but I'm grateful I have a job. And I was only there for 2 hours, so it wasn't even that bad. How are you? So that's this side. On the other side, see again, like what's up with all this? Maybe it's just these decks. On the Vitruvian side, remember the Keeper at the bottom of the Revelations. Um, well, look, we see her here. But I know like they're different breathing. Love it. Um, I know they're different, like sacred geometrical whatever shapes, but it feels like in the necromant, like this is the Merkaba in its configuration where it has like torque and spin and it generates a field, and she's able to use that field to interact with the mysteries of life to do whatever it is that the spark of the creator, the spark of the divine that we hold within us has the power and authority to do. Living in oneness as oneness, or living in oneness as a part of the one or whatever. And it feels like this is in it's a dormant configuration. So you might be able to get something out of it, but you're not going to get everything that you can get. And it's interesting because the Emperor in the Vitruvian edition has that same um, there you go, has that same mystical cue or whatever. So again, it's like with it being here, it's almost like it doesn't do us any good to call ourselves anything, or it's like there's no power, there's no authority behind the words we say or the actions that we take. So it's almost like it's easy to fall on deaf ears, or it's easy for us to do this or do that, and like maybe nothing really changes. Because again, it almost goes back to the energy of like when everything goes up or when everything goes out and there's nothing that comes back inside to build up that foundation, then it's like we're operating with a third of our power. Like this is a third that we have access to. Like here's it's like it splits it into thirds, right? This is all we have, but there's the majority of it we're missing. If I can like communicate it, the majority of it is missing. Not in the keeper though, she's got it all, but that's her thing. There are three fools in the Spirit Keeper's Tarot: the initiate, the seeker, and the keeper. The initiate is more so our traditional fool. It's very fresh. It's very new. It's like take that leap. The seeker is when we've gone a certain ways on our journey, but we almost hit a roadblock because we reach the limit of our understanding and we reach the limit of our knowledge. And so it's the one in seek, or the one seeking, the one in seek of. It's the one seeking more knowledge, more experiences, something more because it's done everything that it can do. And then the keeper is the fool that's made it through the major arcana from the magician to the world, integrated everything that they needed to at every point, comes into this whole new understanding. And because they have, within the context of this, because they have such a fine understanding of the microscopic, because they have such a fine understanding of the nanoscopic, and because they've worked that out within and among and between themselves, Saturn then, like, they can release. So these hands sort of reveal the rest. And now when they interact with the world, they're interacting with the world from a space of understanding, from a place of authority, and like everything. But there's also like that's the self and the environment relationship. That self and self relationship is just as strong because that's like where the authority comes from. It comes from within. So hopefully some food. Oh yeah, what is for dinner? Because I'm hungry. I'm actually starving. Well, not starving now that I'm doing this, but I was pretty hungry earlier. I just hope that everything isn't closed. Well, it's already 7 o'clock, so I just hope everything isn't closed when I finish this. But that's where we are. I'm missing a card. I'm missing the moon. Where did I put the moon? Here it is. The necromancer. Oh yeah. Also, we see the two birds. They're different birds, but the theme of the two birds is there again. Cranberry salad sandwiches. Ooh. See, there's also like this is a space. It's like the space between the birds here is greater than the space between the birds here. Even though it's like it's because of perspective, it might look that way, but it feels like that is significant. Maybe that's what it's a measure of our space of allowing. And our ability to allow can be limited by our need to know, which again brings in the energy of the title card, but it brings in the title card almost as like a medicine more so than like a requirement. And then speaking of the three fools, under the necromancer is the initiate. So this is the one at the beginning, the two jackals here, which is interesting because maybe on this side, on the Vitruvian side, excuse me, on the Revelation side, there's already been, because of the Two of Pentacles up here and the burden one and the Ten of Wands, it feels like this is a measure of how we've used or utilized something. It feels like this isn't the initiation to that path and to that point. So it's like it's opening here. It's the initiate. It feels like this would be the seeker, like the seeker who's already started to use some of this, and it's like it's reaching a certain point of evaluation or whatever. And then it's like, the bottom of the deck is the keeper. Just like under this Two of Pentacles was the Six of Wands, which implied a certain success. It's like we will be successful in this. So it's not that we don't have to try, because then we don't do anything. And if we don't do anything, it's like, we may not necessarily find success because there's something that must be done. But we are set up to succeed. There you go. But under that initiate is the High Priestess, which is the moon. So we got Pisces, air, and the moon on this side. We have Jupiter in Capricorn, Pisces, and the Archangel of Healing, which doesn't have an elemental. It's just water. So I guess Jupiter in Capricorn, water, and Pisces over here, which is interesting because at the bottom of that deck, it was water and earth. Water and earth were the two elements that we needed a planet to help us sort of like interact with or access that energy. Because air and fire came out as air and fire. Judgment is fire, the Fool is air. But here we get the moon, air, and Pisces. It's also interesting that it's like the two birds, the two jackals, these two pillars, those two pillars. But here, nothing is being blocked. Interestingly enough. Oops. And it's like we can say that in the necromancer, like there's the person standing here, but we can see what lies like behind her. We get a clear view of the moon in the back. We get a clear view of whatever this mystic rose is in the sky in the back. We get a clear view of the High Priestess in between these two pillars and the triple goddess. I mean, we could say there is a curtain here so we don't see it, because we see the night sky up there. Ooh, we see a little bit of light coming out back there. We see some dark light maybe coming out on the other side, but there's this curtain so the curtain is there. So maybe not, but it feels a lot less obstructed here on the initial side of it. There is this, I think it's the great chasm of understanding here that the initiate will have to cross at some point. And it feels like that's where it's like to gain greater knowledge and wisdom, we might have to be willing to forget what we know and what we think we know, and to forget what we know that we know. Because we may make it to the other side and realize that what we thought we knew, we didn't actually know. There are things that we think we know that we don't know. And there are things that it's the known knowns, the known unknowns, the unknown unknowns, but also the unknown knowns. The unknown knowns was last time. So yeah, I mean, between the moon and the High Priestess, there's not a lot of information over here to even go on. Also, it's like all majors on the Vitruvian side. The Angel, which is Temperance, the Necromancer, which is the moon, the Initiate, which is the Fool, and the High Priestess, or the Priestess, which is the High Priestess. On the Revelation side, it's the Burdened One, the Ten of Wands, the Nocturne, Two of Pentacles, the Archangel of Healing, and the Necromancer, which is the moon. It feels like this is like a 3-phase journey. Because it feels like first there's the Vitruvian, which is that's like when we put, and again, it's like it's not bad to have faith. Faith isn't a bad thing. Like we should. and we should be able to rely on spirit or creator, the divine, the one that we believe in. But it's like we should also feel empowered within ourselves. It's it's almost like that God helps those who help themselves type of thing. But it's like when we begin to help ourselves, the help goes further. It does more. It feels like it's this is like based around a mirror. It's like when a company matches, or when somebody matches like a donation up to a certain, or they give a percentage. It's like when we give, we actually get more. Or it's like, we'll give you $50 and then we'll match every dollar that you put in. So you could not put in anything and still get $50. Or you could put in $50 and get 100. You know what I mean? Or you can put in $1 and get 51. And then it feels like we come into the Vitruvian side, the Revelation side. Sorry, we come into the side with color, and that's when we're in the space of doing. And that one, it's starting with the burden one, which means in the beginning, it most definitely is not easy. That can be very like, the journey was easier when I depended and relied on spirit for everything, or when I didn't rely on spirit for anything, depending on where you were. Because it's like doing the work is difficult and it's exhausting and it feels like there's never an end. But then with the nocturne, it feels like there's this balance that it's leading us to internally that shifts us into a harmony externally. That when those two come into balance, it moves the macroscopic or the microscopic if we're at the nano, you know? And so it feels like, again, there's this threefold, like there's you, your environment, and then the universe. And it's like your environment is a part of the universe. You are in the universe. But it's like there's this greater balance that it has the ability to impact when we are in balance with the environment. And then it feels like it comes back to the Vitruvian side after we work through, because after we pass Anubis's test or whatever, um, then we come back to all of this like major, major, major energy, but we come back to the major, major, major energy from the space of the keeper. It's like that's when we begin to work more closely with the macroscopic, or like in between the macro and micro, the scopic, we're just scopic. That's when we become the magician in the tarot apocalypsis, the one that holds the water and the fire within, so it can work with the above and it can work with the below, and it serves as liaison and mediator in some way, but it can also, as the magician, we'll say request certain things be done, and then depending on litigation, the request can be granted or denied. So on the outside is our fire. Is oh no, we already got fire. Fire, earth, water, water, or Pisces. Oh snap! This is interesting. So on the outside, on the Vitruvian side, it's the Queen of Wands, the golden shield, power and authority of fire, I believe. Yes, power and authority of fire, the golden shield, Queen of Wands energy. On the Revelation side, it's the Page of Wands, which is the herald of the flame. It's awaken the brilliance. It feels like it's on the other side. Because like that on the other side, it feels like that's a landscape that we would have been familiar with. Like that's the world we knew. But we like slid through the cracks and ended up on the other side. It's this. Because see how she has that wand there that she's holding on to? The ninth wand. When she integrates with that part of her and steps through onto the other side, like this is how they emerge. But then there's this letter here. And it's like, depending on how we go into it, we might think that there's some kind of completion once we get to the other side. We may think, oh, like, oh, after this Nine of Wands, like, we're done. There's nothing more to do. We won the game. But it's like, no, that's just the beginning. That's the end of something old, the completion of something old, but it's merely the beginning of something brand new. And it almost I don't want to say, how do I say this? When we come into ourselves in this way, that's when we really gain the ability to make impacts and changes. But it's like, we can make impacts and changes before then too, before this moment. But that feels like it's more like interpersonal, or it's more micro nano. When we get on the other side of it, that's when it becomes different. It's just different. I don't know how it's different. I have no clue, Steph. I am living life and finding out. And I am content to live life and find out. I am going to pull an extra card. The pages in both decks are messengers, and they come with messages. So you get to pull an extra card. So let's find out what the Herald of the Flame, Awaken the Brilliance is. You see that? It's right here. Oh, gosh. That's a card I was not expecting, but I'm also going to take the cards around it for context. The Journeyman, Sun in Virgo, is at the bottom of the deck now, which I love. The Journeyman, it's like, it carries through the energy of this, but it emphasizes how the end is the beginning. It's almost like everything until now was to get us to this point where we can do the next thing. So I guess the Herald of the Flame is coming out with the Demon battling the Typhon, but it's in between. So that's Capricorn. It's in between Mercury and Jupiter and Libra, in between the Four of Swords and the Erudite. You know what I love about this though is it feels like this is our. Oh, snap, it's a Tweety. You did hear Sun in Virgo, I think. Right? Was there a Sun in Virgo? Yeah, at the bottom of the deck. Eight of Pentacles. There you go. How you doing, Kathy? How are you? Yeah, so it's the Hadron Collider. It's like they accelerate particles and then they basically make them collide, and people will tell you all kinds of stuff. I am just living life and finding out, because it's like, I don't know. And then I've seen some stuff. There were posts on Facebook. I'm not going to say it was like fear mongery, but I just personally didn't it didn't resonate as true for me what I was hearing people say through the posts. but that's also a theme. So I don't know. That's why I'm just like, I don't know. So, oh, this. Maybe this is like facing one's own personal demons. Maybe not. But it feels like the herald of the flame that emerges on the other side is this erudite that faces the demon. And I'm assuming it puts the demon to rest because after that is the Four of Swords. Or it's like facing this awakens something within the erudite that is air, that is swords, instead of all this fire and water and earth. That is the air. Also, this is the south node. So maybe this is the escape or it's making that transition. Because in the we see it more in this nocturne. There's the north node world and the south node world, and we're making the transition between. And the south node is on the devil, so that's what we're escaping. Again, it's like when we build the foundation inside of us that is so strong that it's like there is no temptation. It's like there's the devil energy is like literally powerless. And again, that's because of the integration with the shadow that happened before we even made it on the other side. So it's like there's no loose thread for devil energy to pick at. And that's probably because Luke's ex tenebris light from darkness, we already faced it within ourselves. So that's this. That's on the other farthest side from the mirror. Over here on the other side, it's this shield. This is what we're protected from. And it feels like this shield, for me, it feels like sometimes with the shields, the energy just stops. What's interesting is we have the Archangel of Healing, which means we've gone beyond the Ivory Shield, which is so kings in this deck are archangels, queens are the shields. So we've already gone beyond the shield. We've already been granted an audience. We've already been granted permission to see the archangel. Here, we don't get to see the Archangel of Glory, which is the King of Wands. But because presently we sit out the Archangel of Healing, we've already made it past the Ivory Shield. For me, especially in the Vitruvian edition, the Ivory Shield is the one that sits at our sacred waters. She's the one that, like, if I'm reading for somebody and she finds out, she'll glare at me. And it's like, and that's when I got to be like, that's it. Anything that lies beyond is for you and it's for your eyes and ears and soul only. There's nothing that I could do to try to help you get any further. Number one, and I'm not granted access and permission to your own special, sacred, whatever that's for you. But here, when it comes to us within ourselves, with this Archangel of Healing, we would have already gotten there, which is again why it feels like we're allowed to face this thing with the Herald of the Flame, awaken the brilliance. It's because we've awakened the brilliance because the light that was the Saturn in Pisces, the light that needs to shine from the abyss to connect to the light that's trying to penetrate the abyss. Because if the light is only going in one direction, it'll get lost. It'll dissipate before then. Right? That's why Scorpio can be dark sometimes. But when the light is on in Scorpio and the light is penetrating the Cancer and everything is Gucci in the Pisces, then we get these two lights that connect, and that's when whatever happens. So this is an energy that we're protected from on this side by the angel and all of this, and rightfully so, because if we're not at this point, so there's no way, there's no way that we would win. But here we do. The bottom of the deck is the memory. Oh, it's in reverse. The bottom of the deck is in reverse. It's the memory keeper in reverse. Six of Cups, Six of Wands, Six of Pentacles. Let's see if we can get a Six of Swords. That was the bottom of the deck for the Revelations edition. The bottom of the deck for the Vitruvian is the Hollow Void. Moon in Cancer, Four of Cups. And I feel like, especially on this side, it emphasizes that when we're constantly reaching up and when we're constantly reaching out and we're not doing anything to actively build ourselves up, it feels like that's the hollow void. It's interesting, though, because we see the scorpion in the tree, and that's Scorpio. The scorpion isn't even supposed to be up here. Like, this is its surface level understanding. It's like we're trying to pull Scorpio out of its element to make scorpionic energy easier to deal with or easier to manage, but that's not where it belongs. And it's like we're trying to get a subterranean understanding at the surface. We're actually trying to get it above the surface. And it's just like, that's not where this energy, like Scorpio is in Scorpio, Cancer is in Cancer, Pisces is in Pisces, Aries is in Aries, Taurus is in Taurus. Like, everything has its place. And we can pull on another strength in a certain situation. Like, we can pull those strengths when we need them, but the energy stays where the energy is. But that's the beauty of us being humans, being made in the image of the divine or of the creator. Because we can walk into that space and we can bring the energy without displacing the energy. And I think maybe that's where we encounter problems sometimes too, is that we try to put energy in places and spaces that it doesn't belong. Like, we try to have that moved rather than being like an access point in a way, because of what we've already done inside of us. Because it's like with the keeper, once we've mastered that energy, the keeper is the one who has made it through the major arcana. The fool is where we are. We're never the magician, we're never the empress, we're never the wheel of fortune. Those are always macroscopic, big. They're these energies that can penetrate from the macroscopic to the nanoscopic. We are the fool. And once, like, oh snap, it's a Twittyverse. Hello. Welcome back. It's like when we've learned from the magician what we need to know, we can be the magician, or like we can perform magician like duties. We can perform temperance like roles, and we can bring forth the power of strength, but we're not strength. We are the fool. But it's the keeper who's made it through that's not even, she's not at the bottom of the deck anymore. I forgot. I'm sorry. I shuffled it. But it's the keeper. Well, here's the even perfect still. It's the journeyman. The journeyman is the one that's learning to do this. But the keeper can bring out strength, can bring out the star, can bring out the sun, because when the fool was at that space, they learned it. They integrated it. They took it on challenges. They went through the challenges to get the blessing, to get the lesson, to get everything. It all acts through us. And that's the thing about authority. That's like this emperor here with the dormant configuration. Like that's the emperor that lacks the authority because the authority comes from within. That's when we've worked through the thing, and that's when it's become a part of our foundation with all this Saturnian energy and Capricornian energy. We can bring it forward instead of trying to put the scorpion on the tree so that it doesn't do whatever scorpions do. And it's like, okay, like it's valid because we don't want to be stung. It's valid because, again, scorpionic energy especially can be one of the ones that it's like harder to deal with. It's harder to manage. And so we do that thing where we try to make it easy by just like completely, I don't know, trying to take control or whatever. But it doesn't actually serve us. It's almost like Avatar The Last Airbender, but avatars, well, you can have avatars that are born, but there are also avatars that can be like created or made. And in a certain season, I think it was in The Legend of Korra, we learned how the avatar became the avatar, the first one. And it's basically because of the light spirit that entered his body or whatever that gave him access to be able to interact with all the elements rather than just one. Well, I mean, I think before him, nobody interacted with any of them. But anyway, it's because of the light inside. And when the light is on inside, we can interact with any element. It seems like fire and air we've already got, at least on the Vitruvian side. Because again, the major came out. With water and earth, we had a planet. It was Saturn for earth, the moon for water. It was like, well, the moon and water, you know. Oh, well, here we go. Moon and Cancer, and it's a hollow void. So, but I guess that's the thing about comfortability. That's why I think, especially more in traditional astrology, while the energy of a trine is very auspicious and it's very good, it can be, it's like it's so good that it doesn't lend to growth because it's too easy. Because there is no challenge, because nothing is ever asked or required, we never do the thing because it's always given to us. So we don't understand the value of whatever. So we are talking about Avatar The Last Airbender. Matt, thank you. Thank you. We're talking about The Last Airbender. I haven't seen James Cameron. I haven't seen that movie, even though they're coming out with a second one now after like 15 years. But anyway, that's the thing about like when it's too easy, we don't really get it. And because we don't get it, we don't grow, which is why it feels like the initiate is over here again. But it's like in Avatar The Last Airbender, it's like if anybody could become the Avatar by interacting with and learning those elements. And even in like the first one, we get Uncle Iroh. Uncle Iroh was able to redirect lightning because of the principles that he took from the waterbenders. I actually don't remember if he, because I know he drew out the four elements, but I think he talked about the waterbenders specifically when it came to redirecting lightning. But he might have mentioned like this is the part from the water, this is what we get from the airbenders. I think it might have actually been all four, because it might have been like the stance of the earth benders with the like non-combative whatever of the airbenders, but with the flow of the waterbenders that allowed the lightning to be like redirected or something. I don't remember. Uncle Iroh was amazing. And then he got locked up and got super buff in jail. Anyway, leaves from the vine. And this is interesting. It feels like the path to love is a many-fold path. First, we learn to love ourselves. I mean, it's according to this burdened one, it's a many-fold path. There are many levels of love. But big three, or a big few, is the love of self. Ain't nobody say Bixby. I said big three, not Bixby. Self. Yeah, Bixby, self. There's the love of self. There's the love of others. There's the love of the environment. There's the love of, it's like it keeps growing and growing and growing. And the more that we do, the part I was super excited about is this memory keeper in reverse over here on the revelation side. Because upright, it's the memory keeper, the one who keeps memories. It feels like in reverse, it's the memory giver. Like there's going to be the return of some of these memories. Also, it's probably because of the defeat of this double energy. Because double energy has them chained. They can never grow. They're stuck in this infantile state because of these chains. And again, before we do all of this that's on the revelation side, we're not even allowed to face this demon. And if we're not even allowed to face it, then it's like we never get past that phase. We never get past that point where it's infantile. It's never allowed to mature. It's never allowed to grow. We don't go too far beyond the initiate. But again, that's because of the chasm of understanding right there. It feels like it's because we never make that jump across to the other side. But with this energy defeated by the avatar, the erudite, now something that was at rest can be woken up by the very same angel that like kept it asleep. Like this feels like liquid light. But when we're not ready, it's stuck in this recycle. Like she just pours it from cup to cup to cup to cup. But here, it's like she's going to pour it out onto the body of the soldier. And it's going to awaken the thing that allows these energies to finally mature. Where your inner child isn't like a child. Like it can grow, it can mature, it can evolve. And then as it grows, matures, it's almost like if we view the inner child as the light body, it's almost like this in a way. But first, it's the inner fetus, and then it's the inner, what's like the blastocyst, the inner whatever. It goes through just how we grow from a fetus to a person. Politics aside, American, especially right now, just as we grow into a person, it's like that spark is like a fetus within us. And if it's stuck as the inner child, it's like imagine child you inside of your body. Like there's probably, or like baby, let's say toddler you, like 3, 4, 5 years old, unless you haven't grown since you were 3, 4, 5, or you are young and you shouldn't be watching me. These videos are not for children. Um, I clicked that button in the YouTube. This is not YouTube Kids, but it's like imagine like superimposing child you on top of you, or just like your hand on your hand, like a baby hand might be that big. That's how much access you have, and that's this. And it's like we try to make this, try to be in this emperor energy with that much, with like even less than this, and that's why like there's no authority, or it's like there's partial authority, there's little authority, so nothing really changes. But as the inner fetus, it turns into the inner baby, into the inner toddler, into the inner child, the inner teen, the inner adult. It's like more and more the light grows and fills our body. And when there's a certain quotient that's full, that's when the configuration changes into the Merkaba. And I'm sure there's probably a shape beyond that. That's like more and more and more authority. That's when the words that we speak and the actions that we take, it's like it matters. Because it's like it's creator mode. But it's creator mode. And again, it's this Nine of Wands where it's a space of being. So it's like we can try to say, we can try to engage, we can do all kinds of practices or rituals or whatever. But if we're not in that space of being, it's gonna partially, if not completely, fizzle. Because it's like when you reach a certain state of being. If you're like, I don't know, let's say 100% is you as you are now, and your inner child is like a child. Let's say inner child gets you a 30%. Or you could probably work on it with your age. However old you are, let's say that 10 is the child, between 10 and 13 is a transition between the inner child and the inner teenager, between like 18 and 25 is the transition between the inner teenager and the inner adult. And you can take your age and divide it to see how much, whatever percentage, whatever. But it's like all of it needs to mature. Like nothing is meant to be a child forever. And you can be childlike, sure. But I think in some ways, childlike is just defined by how we view adults or what is mature or whatever. So even still, it's not necessarily a child. It's because of our conception of what an adult is or who an adult needs to be. I don't know. That's getting into Luminous Warrior and stuff like that. So anyway. Pretty sure you're a toddler, you at the moment. I wish I was a baby. I wish I could just sleep and eat. Some days I wish I had. I was like done aging after 11. I remember on my 11th birthday, I was just like, you know what? I'm done. I can tell that being an adult is responsibility and it doesn't look very fun. And I don't want responsibility and no fun. So I was never the one that was like, I can't wait until I'm an adult. I can't wait until I can drive and until I can do this and until I can do that. But also, like, for me, the future was a thing that I was very afraid of. Like, the future, like, trauma response. It was a trauma response for me. So I still didn't win. And I still grew up. So, it was a lose-lose all around. Until it became a win. And it only became a win when I did whatever in my life. Ooh. The Wheel of Fortune, Jupiter. Jupiter and Aries. We get Jupiter and Libra. Jupiter and Libra was the Four of Swords. Here's Jupiter and Aries opposing Jupiter and Libra. But these are both major energies. But the angel in the window was waking up the person sleeping in Jupiter and Libra Four of Swords. See, with the Wheel of Fortune, with the Wheel of Life, live life and find out. With the Wheel of Life, it's Jupiter. Jupiter does it. With the Wheel of Life, it feels like the circular motion of the rotation of the wheel is the reconfiguration of that cube into the Merkaba. And it feels like, again, like there are certain things that we didn't understand. It's almost like there were certain areas where we were not allowed to get an understanding just because it's like there was a missing piece or there's certain key information that was missing. So there's a lot of like speculation, speculation. There's a lot of speculation. There's a lot of hypothesizing. There's a lot of theorizing that happens and goes on. There's a lot of Sagittarius that tries to make sense out of Pisces. And again, with the moon card being Pisces, with the space of allowing between um, the whoever and the whatever, the cards, it's like the more we need to know, the less we allow ourselves to find the truth, or the less we allow for the truth to present itself. But it feels like certain things were intentionally left inaccessible. We just would not have been able to know. But as the wheel turns, it feels like it's going to, I don't know if it's necessarily truths will come out. I think it's partially like truths will come out. I think also too, it's like we're going to be allowed more access for more information. We're going to get more sides of the story or something like that. Under the Emperor is 414, the Angel and the Initiate. Did I even shuffle these cards? No, because the Gardener is behind that. Like the Gardener, like this was the purpose, this was the reason. I think that's the Horse rune, which is like movement. Again, it's like, what is that like? It reminds me of when I was an RA. When I was an RA, um, wait, what? It feels like whenever you feel like you get experience, you discover, yeah, no. It seems like you keep getting more feeble with the cycles. They don't seem to stop. Menaz, is that humankind or is that the horse? Oh, it's this. Which one is that? I think, I mean, I don't, they say the divine works in mysterious ways. And honestly, when it comes to me and my journey, that's why sometimes it's like, I'm not even going to try to figure this out. I'm going to live life, find out, apply what I learned, see if I get a different outcome, see if maybe something else comes up because I can get even further. It's like the part that I would get hung up on or stuck on before, I can get past that now to see the other things that I wasn't seeing. Like when I found out I had relationship anxiety. I was like, wait, what? I was like, I thought like the reason why I wasn't in a relationship was because XYZ trauma. And it's like, yeah, but under that, maybe it's because I held the trauma for so long. Um, there was like it there were other things that I had to work on. And it was a little bigger than I thought it was. There were more causes, more inputs in the equation than I accounted for, or than I knew to account for. So then I was like, oh, you just got called stupid about 409 times. What? Oof. Well, that's not great. Oh, as much as you think you know nothing. Well, yeah, that's a. I'm a Pisces, so I just delude myself. Um, but also at the same time, so for me personally, it's like just because I believe I know something, I guess you could say like just because I believe I know something doesn't mean that I know that just because I think I know something doesn't mean I actually know something. So I hold my knowing, but I also allow for my knowing to be corrected, if that makes sense. And so it is like as much as like every time I learn or every time I go through something, I find out how much I don't actually know. But that doesn't stop me from holding my knowing as knowing within me, if that makes any sense. But also, like, I'm a first house Taurus moon. I'm a Taurus moon and rising. My moon is in my first house and my rising sign. But my sun is in Pisces. So I get that Taurian rigidity and like fixedness while still maintaining that Piscean flexibility. But also, it's just like, um, it's math class for me. Because, like, going through math, it's like when you're in first, second, third grade, fourth grade, they tell you that you can't subtract a bigger number from a smaller number. And then you learn about negative numbers. Or it's like, when it comes to fractions, you can't do this. When it comes to this, you can't do that. And so, like, through the education system, it's like there are things that but then you learn that you only partially knew the thing, or you knew the thing within a certain context, or you knew the thing within a certain set of conditions. But there are conditions where it acts and behaves differently. And in my brain, it's like I can accept that things act and behave differently. I can accept that the knowing that I had before was to get me to this point where I can know more or where I can know further. And I don't have to feel like I don't know anything, if that makes sense. And I don't know, it might not, but that's how I rationalize it in my head. And because I rationalize it that way, it's like I don't often feel the powerlessness of like not knowing anything. If it, I don't, that's how I don't know. That's what I do. I just, it's a try. I feel like it's a trying for me. Um, well, for me, like there were some things. So this is where I feel like astrology is helpful. I don't know about human design. I know very, very, very little about human design. Nothing about gene keys. Nothing about whatever else. But like because of my Taurus and Pisces placements, I feel like for me, what helps is like the Pisces helps me. So like if it's with someone else, then for me it's like as long as I remain compassionate enough to listen, as long as I continue to want to understand, it bridges it for me. That's how I do it. As long as I hold like I want to genuinely understand something, it makes that transition easy for me. So I can be as fixed or as stuck as I am. But when I reach that point of like my understanding is causing a disconnect here, or my understanding isn't helping me get where I need to go. So there's something within my understanding that I need to address, face, readjust. There's something that I need to let go, then I can let it go. But like when it comes to people, when it comes to a lot of things, the understanding for me or the desire to understand is more important. And so it helps me be flexible when I need to be. Um, and also, like Eve said, like gut feeling and intuition. If something for me doesn't like, if it doesn't feel right, I don't take it. And there are things that I'm okay with not knowing. And so it's like if there's something that I don't know and like this person is saying something, it's like if 15 different people are saying 25 different things and none of them feel like they resonate or make sense, I don't take any of it. It's just like I'll let life show me. I'll just go in not knowing, I don't know. And then if I need to know, eventually I find out. Sometimes things will resonate partially, so I might take some of it, understanding and knowing it's like, yeah, it doesn't, but I don't like, I just know how I am, and that's how I navigate the world. Um, how does one define themselves if they shift? I think for me, it's an understanding that things shift, people change and grow and evolve, and I do the same. So if I define myself in a way, I'm probably defining myself as I understand myself in this moment. If my understanding of myself changes, then my definition is going to change. And it's like because I know that everything has a tendency to change, or at least most things change. Um, it's like I understand that, like, just like my knowing, my definition of me is everything that I know up until this point. And I don't feel the pressure of coming up with a definition that's going to define me for all of eternity. I don't need a definition that's going to define how I was 15 years ago and how I don't even know how I'm going to be 25 years from now. It's very like in the moment, my current understanding, this is my definition, and it can change. So maybe it's like a mixture between like I know the things that I know. I also understand that I don't know anything, but I'm comfortable with my knowing and I'm comfortable with not knowing. So I can claim to know. I can give it a definition now, but also I know that that's probably going to change as I grow and as I understand more as I live life. Again, like my going back to my astrology, my Mercury is in Pisces in my 12th house. So I have a very metaphorical understanding. And like even if you like watch me, you can probably get that I tend to use metaphors when I try to explain stuff. And I tend to store information and interact with the information that I store as a metaphor. So, like going back to school, there were things that I learned in first, second, third, fourth, fifth grade, and then you learn stuff in fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and then ninth, 10th, 11th. It's like it continues to grow. And I also did fairly well in school. So, because I did well in school, it's like, yeah, I got 100s, I got A's. So I know that I knew that, but now you're telling me that it's different. Okay. Hey, Catherine, how are you doing? But like for me, so if we're going on zodiac stereotypes, that more like fluid, flowy, Piscean, watery way of like interacting with the world and understanding myself in the world and stuff like that, it might not necessarily vibe for like, Virgo or earth energy. Some people like need to, or even like air, where there needs to be like some kind of structure or some kind of foundation. I'm not like that. So I don't know what it's like. I'm not always like that. I can be like that in certain areas. But since I'm not necessarily like that, I wouldn't know like how to overcome that or how to pair something with that to complement it and to get at a certain place. Because that it's not my background, it's not my modus operandi. I wouldn't know. The Virgo almost Virgo gets all the hair flips. What do you mean? I love Virgo. I love Virgo because Virgo is everything that I am not. And I, as someone who isn't always capable of structure, especially outside of the workplace, I love Virgo. As go up early in this video, I haven't finished a single zodiac series that I've started. I might have finished one or two, like way back in the day. But it's been a minute. I'm great at starting. I have, I mean, a grand, almost cardinal cross. I got a big square in my chart, but it's not necessarily a cross because my Capricorn Cancer is off. But like my Venus in Aries opposes my retrograde Jupiter in Libra, Uranus, Neptune, Capricorn, Mars, and Cancer. I got all the cardinals. I got a fair amount of fixed energy. I don't have any Virgo, so I can't finish anything. But that is a narrative and a story that I am changing. I'm also learning as a manifester. It's like it's my job, it's in my human design to initiate things, not necessarily to finish. So I just got to find something that aligns with my, I need to initiate. You know what I mean? That's why God gave us Virgos. So thank you to the Virgos. I love y'all. For doing the things that I can't do. I love all of you. There are things that I don't want to do that people love to do. So I thank those people because I don't want to do it. It takes all kinds of us. You're an Aquarius moon. You want to know and you're not comfortable with not knowing. Yeah. See, I'm not. I'm not. Virgo is your North Node. You got a lot to learn there. I wish my South Node was. No, I don't. I don't wish my South Node was in Pisces. I feel like if my South Node was in Pisces, my life would be more incoherent. My South Node is in Gemini, and that's crazy enough. North Node is in Sagittarius. But anyway, not anyway to be dismissive, but back to this. Um, Saturn and Taurus. Saturn and Jupiter are like everywhere. This is all. It's all Saturn and all Jupiter. Would Jupiter be Saturn's moon? Well, Jupiter is bigger than Saturn. I think. I'm pretty sure Jupiter is bigger than Saturn. If Saturn took the rings off, I wonder if Saturn would be bigger than Jupiter. So, hey, node buddies. This is all at the bottom of the deck. What card came out? Oh, the Wheel of Life was at the top. Life will give us everything that we need. And again, it feels like, I don't know if it's purely internal. It feels like there's heavy external influence, just some things that we weren't allowed to know, or there's no way we would have known it. So we did the best we can do, and that's understandable. The challenge comes in when we're presented with new information that very might be the truth. It's like, can we make that transition? Can we accept the truth as truth? And can we have the humility to, for me, it'd probably be more humility than anything else. I know me. Spirit knows me. It's fine. That's why they love me. That's why I love me. You know what I mean? I don't have to be everything. That's why y'all exist. I don't know. That's also, I feel like a lot of it's just me. I don't know. It's just the way I see the world. It's the set of truths that I have that may not necessarily be the same for that probably most definitely it's not the same for everybody, and I don't think it's intended to be. That's the self part of this journey. So it's for us to, but I think again too, like when we're honest with ourselves, um, we can learn what helps us. Like my Libra, I don't want to say best friend. Jupiter is Saturn's sun, yes. Saturn, Kronos, Jupiter, Zeus. Um, I am pretty. I am humble, but I think too, in a very like Queen of Wands type of way. Like I've known people. I'm thinking of a specific person right now who's actually going through his whole journey, and like it's amazing. But it's like because of his lack of self-esteem, because of his like lack of self-confidence, low self-esteem, there would be people that he would think were like egotistical or thought that they were better than everybody, but it was just like a person with confidence. And it's like, no, that's just like somebody who isn't just oozing insecurity. And it's also not someone who's like fighting their insecurity so bad that they just like gush insecurity everywhere. It's like it's a healthy level of confidence. Like, it's a healthy level of ego. Are we all supposed to walk around with no self esteem, needing external validation, and trying to be like small and weak and whatever? Like, my Chiron and Leo said no. My North Node in Sagittarius said H no. But actually said the word HE double hockey sticks no. And my Venus in Aries said I'm not made for anything less. So that's my fire trine. It can be. And I think sometimes too it depends on the person who's interacting. So although like I can be. I gotta go easy on myself. Fire was a lesson I learned, fire and air, when it was time to heal that Leo Chiron and step into that North Node Sagittarius. Sometimes you just gotta say it as it is, and it's not intentionally designed to hurt people's feelings, but it's like being overly gentle and like it's like there's a certain point where it doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help anybody learn to take accountability. It doesn't help anybody move any further. It's like it goes back to that memory keeper upright with the devil having the adult feminine and masculine, the mature feminine and masculine in chains. It keeps us infantilized. And it's like we're not children. We have things that it's for us to be accountable for. There are things that we're responsible for. And you don't have to be, sure, but the Queen of Wands ain't gonna let you get past a certain whatever. And it's time for us to it's time for us to mature. It's time for us to step up. The world needs us. Our communities need us. We need ourselves. And it doesn't happen if we don't. I smell food. Sorry. That's my Taurian nose. It almost smelled like a cream of wheat, a farina, a porridge type of smell. I'm pretty sure a cream of wheat isn't cooking right now. Breakfast food. I just had breakfast with my grandma yesterday. I went to a place I hadn't been to in over a decade, legitimately. Maybe a decade and a half. I'm not even 30, so it's been a long time. What do you do if like your light body is older than your like physical body? I'm kidding. Let's see. Can I get a card for that? Just like one card. Oh, well, there we go. The Chancellor, which is justice. The bottom of the deck is the Dark Horse, Mars in Leo and Aries, with Mars and Pisces behind it. The Dark Horse, the Joyous One, the Chancellor, the Priestess at the bottom. Anyway, you're mostly Earth and Fire. 5 Earth and 6 fixed placements. Oof. I got a nice balance. When I was like first exposed to astrology, and I looked at my elemental break, when I looked at where my planets were, I was like, oh my gosh, this is why I'm like literally all over the place. And at first I thought something was wrong with me, but now I love it. I lived enough life. I faced enough of myself. I faced enough outside of me where I had to be brave and I had to be strong. And I was like, you know what? I like my elemental makeup. I like me. I don't know. I just love being me. You know what I mean? And I love that like there aren't a billion of me. Because personally, I'd get bored if everybody was me. I was just like, ew, like I don't like that. I'm not so egotistical that I need like 7+ billion versions of me walking around this earth. It's like, oh no, thank you. And I also don't hate myself, okay? It's not because I hate myself and I don't want there to be more than one me. It's also not because I need to be so special that there's only one of me, but there is only one Patrick. So, you know, anyway. Ooh, baking a yellow cake. Eva's like, wait, you can smell the yellow. Holly's like, yes, you can. So we get three cards came out. We have an opposition here. Um, so first is the Ebony Shield, Sanctum of Treasures. This is our Queen of Pentacles. And we have one card that we saw a minute ago. We got a card that we saw just now. So. Well, I know a 34-year-old who feels between the ages of like 12 and 15, but not in a bad way. Not in a like this person is so juvenile type of way. Um, but also, I think there's a difference between the age of the light body and like that type of energy. Um, I don't think there's necessarily a direct one-to-one correlation because I think there's a light age that could be very old that would read as stern, could potentially read as very stern, very serious, um, but also not like overly restrictive. So it can straddle the line a little bit more. And I mean, I feel like it could be like the default. You felt like a senior citizen since you were a ton. See, that's where you get people like you're an old soul when you've always been more mature for your age or whatever. I think also too, different people are different souls are different, and I think age and maturity can mean different things for different people. So, like, let's say if, for example, you are born and you're like very strict, very old, extremely mature, maybe as you age, you actually lighten up. You know what I mean? And the opposite could be true. Um, I feel like, I don't know, there are many complexities to this, but I can ask the cards if you want. I can pull the cards. What do you do, or what does it mean if your light body is younger? Ooh, ooh. So a card came out. Ooh. Oh gosh. This is interesting though. So I got three cards that were on the table already. And then I was shuffling. I asked the question and I shuffled the cards, and a card fell on top of the middle card, and then it turned so it's on top of both the second and the third card. Now, the second card is the Eight of Swords, the captor. So the two planets that have been big, the three cards, I guess I'll just say, I've already shown the Ebony Shield. It's the Eight of Swords, the captor, with the burden one, the Ten of Wands. A not great air card, typically, and a not great fire card, typically. But we get what? Jupiter and Gemini opposing Saturn and Sagittarius. And it's interesting that we see that sort of like crisscross thing mirrored here with the two hands like here ish. But those aren't the cards that came out when I asked the question that like those were already on the table. Now, the question of like what does it mean or what happens if your light body is younger than your physical body? the Mason came out in reverse. The Three of Pentacles in reverse on top of the Eight of Swords that bridge to the Ten of Wands. So the bottom of the deck, it's interesting. It's the Sun in Gemini and the Sun in Capricorn. It's the Four of Pentacles and the Ten of Swords, the Conservator and the Destroyer. But it's interesting because it's the Conservator, the Protector, and the Destroyer. It just feels like it's something withheld. That's it. It's literally like it's the reason why you don't give a kid a gun, because they'll shoot their eye out and then they end up shooting their eye out. With the Three of Pentacles in reverse, it feels like there are things that just don't, they clash. They clash instead of cooperate. And because they clash instead of cooperate, there's a certain immensity of the self that we're not allowed to come into in the physical body. But at the same time, it's almost like the physical body wouldn't be able to handle that energy, even though it's the light body that's younger than the physical body. So maybe it's almost like it plays out the same, but it's like since the light body is younger, it can't pull out that energy. So it's almost like maybe the physical body can take it, but it can't pull it out. It can't access it because there's something that clashes with the Three of Pentacles in reverse in this energy of the Eight of Swords and the Ten of Wands instead of cooperating. Because it feels like if that cooperates, this is the person, like with all of the strength that it takes to be in the Ten of Wands constantly, you can use a fraction of this strength and liberate yourself from the Eight of Swords. And for all of the overthinking, overanalyzing, overly logical and cerebral energy in the Eight of Swords, you could easily find a way to manage the Ten of Wands so you're not overburdened. But those two sides, it's like that doesn't necessarily click within the self where it's like it soothes itself out. It's the Three of Pentacles in reverse. It's almost like it's like, how can you be like, I don't want to, no, never mind, it's fine. It's fine. But it's like there are solutions that we already hold within ourselves, but they're so separate and so almost like polarized, or we get so consumed when we face a certain thing that we don't necessarily realize how it could help. So there you go. But isn't that the thing? Like, it's always like that's when, like, if you're a kid and you're like, I don't want to have to do this. Why do I have to do this? This sucks. This is boring, blah, blah, blah. And then, like, somebody older is like, it builds character. And you're like, what? But then when you become older, you find out, like, wow, it actually built character. It's because of those experiences that I can show up the way that I show up now. I can appreciate those experiences that I wasn't able to in the past because, you know, I'd rather do other things that were more fun. But again, so coming off of this, so thank you, Matt, for that, because I don't know if I would have necessarily reached the same understanding of these cards had you not asked that question. But again, it feels like the Nine of Wands. It's like when these, and that was a thing that popped up a lot like a month, 2 months ago. It's like the self that exists outside of internal conflict. It feels like that Nine of Wands when the wolf, where the beast and the man learn to work together with the Ten of Wands and the Eight of Swords. When these energies are resolved, now whatever was being gatekept or protected with this Queen of Pentacles, we get access to the sanctum of treasures. But it's treasures that come in a very physical, very real life, our actual 3D experience way. And it's just, again, it's almost like it's a level of peace, it's a level of abundance, it's a level of harmony, it's a level of content. Not contempt, but contentedness that these energies just don't allow for. Because with the Ten of Wands, we'd be doing too much, overexerting, overcommitting. Or with the Eight of Swords, we would be so in our head like, I'm not worthy, or I don't deserve it, it's too good to be true, blah, blah, blah. It's like it'd be so easy to sabotage here, but it's so easy to just relish in and appreciate here. So, there you go. Sorry, man. You ask, I answer. I give my, that's, and that, again, that's just my answer. I'm not going to say that that's right. I'm not going to say that's right for you. I'm not going to say that's right for everybody. You know what I mean? But if it resonates, take it. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I like to have fun sometimes. Hopefully you don't feel like it's at your expense. But although sometimes I feel like it might be a little, and it's not at the expense of a specific person. Sometimes it's just like, ooh, this energy, I'm just glad I don't have to deal with this. But again, it's like, I don't know how to have any experience besides the experience that I've had. I don't know necessarily how to deal with environments and situations, even ones that I've experienced, from any perspective besides my own. Because I am who I am, and because I process the world and the way that I process it, like, it can be completely different from me. And so through this, I hope and I try to reach a certain level of, let's like, where that understanding can be bridged or gapped. And I can try to offer things from my, not only from my perspective, but also from, like, I can try to put in people that I've come across in day-to-day life. And I can try to think like, okay, if it was them, knowing them, because this seems to fit them, like, what would help them? Because, like, you know, I got Pisces in me. I can connect people to people, you know? I can. And I try to use that to hit situations outside of myself. Because there are sometimes I'll do a reading, I'm like, I don't know what this is. This is not my experience. And that one, somebody left a comment one time. They were like, wow, you're so rude. You should blah, 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 whatever. I'm like, okay, first of all, if you don't like me, you can leave. I try to be nice. I try to extend the benefit of the doubt. I'm like, I'm going to assume that you're not just here to hate and leave some kind of nasty comment. And I'm going to let you know where I'm coming from. And then the person was like, oh, no, blah, 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 whatever, whatever. I'm like, okay, I'm not for you. You're not for me. That's it. And that's fine. I don't have to be for everybody. Honestly, I don't want to be. I don't want to be for everybody because that's exhausting. And but anyway, yeah. So I don't know. I feel like, it's overfeeling a Pisces thing. I think anybody can overfeel. I overthink sometimes too. So, Ooh, okay. Well, self love is the card that came out. I'm glad to have reached the spot in my life that I've reached. I'm gonna make this about me. I'm just playing. I'm kidding. I like being silly, so but again, but on the more serious note, I feel like that's at that Nine of Wands. It's like when we can face the truth of ourselves, and when we can face our flaws, and when we can face our extra bonus features. With that Ten of Wands and the Eight of Swords, it's like, with a set of honest eyes, we can allow ourselves to be assisted. We can know our shortcomings in a way where we don't have to feel less than because of it. But like there are things that I don't necessarily feel comfortable like reading, for example. There's like certain types of whatever, like I don't even do because I know that I'm not necessarily the type of person to like talk about this or to bring this about. Like I don't feel like this is within my wheelhouse. And there are plenty of people who do plenty of things I don't necessarily have to do. So that's why even some like I have my journey buddy. She's getting into astrology and human design and stuff like that now. Because she realizes or she's realizing what that means for her and how she interacts with those energies to like get a map of the energy. And with her coming into herself, everything that she's done, like I bow to her. She is amazing. She is so just glorious. I feel like what was that? Brilliant. She's brilliant, but in the energy of brilliance, like she shines. I we started our journeys. We reconnected at the end of 2018, 2019, January 1st. We hit them hard. I did mine. She did hers. We were journey buddies. We did it together. We helped each other out. I saw her later 2019 on campus, and I was literally speechless. Like she just like radiated like this just like energy. I was literally speechless. And I was just like kind of staring at her, jaw like not on the floor, but like jaw to my belly button. I'm just like, and she's like, what? I'm like, I just like I have no words. Like you are radiant. But anyway, she's getting into that and she's asking me, and I'm like, I'm not an astrologer. I can tell you how I approach it. I can tell you what I know of how they traditionally read and what I personally feel. And she's like I'm asking you, so I want your take on it. I was like, okay. And she just had to like keep reassuring me because I'm like, this is not my bag, girl, necessarily. I don't even too much like traditional astrology. I don't like how we interact with these energies where it seems like we got to play out cycles that we've been playing out since the beginning of time because apparently we can't learn nothing. Sorry. Sorry. There are reasons why I don't follow astrology as closely as I used to, personally. um, but it's like she's not asking anything of me that is not me. If she's asking me for my opinion. And it's like, because my brain works in metaphor, I'm just getting this metaphor now. So I think this might partially answer the question that one of the questions that you asked me earlier, Matt. Um, when I was in, I think it was my senior year of high school, I took a rhetoric class, or it was junior year in a different, maybe it wasn't Britlit. Was it Britlit? It might have been Britlit class that I took. And I used to like in my papers, I would write like, I think, I feel, blah, 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 whatever. And my teacher told me, she was like, you don't have to write I think and you don't have to write I feel. Like, I know that you are the person writing this paper. So I already know that it's what you think and it's what you feel. And I was like, oh, so I don't have to state like, this is what I think. I don't have to overly state, this is what I feel. I don't have to overly state like, this is my opinion. Because if you're listening to me and I'm giving you my thoughts, feelings, and opinions, like there's this understanding that you already know this is what I think. You already know this is what I feel. You already know these are my opinions. So I can just state them. Sometimes it may be a little matter of factly, but again, it's like it's the understanding that if you're asking me for my opinion, I'm giving you my opinion. So I don't necessarily, and it's easier in some situations, of course, than it is others, depending on how firmly I hold that opinion or belief or whatever. But it's like I don't have to, like with that understanding, and I guess it would it still serves to, or it would still behoove of whoever to state that like this is my opinion. But again, it's like I feel like there's an understanding that like I know this is my opinion, you know this is my opinion, so I don't have to keep stating over and over and over that this is my opinion. I don't have to take this super passive voice or this weak stance for like to not state this as a fact because we both understand it's my opinion. So I'm just going to tell you my opinion. You know what I mean? And it's interesting because that's a level of straightforwardness that I don't necessarily have in my super roundabout way of communicating all the time. Like, you know, the bush, I love the bush. Beat around the bush, 15 ways to Sunday, and then two to three times as much on the way back. I guess, I don't know. Um, but also like my Mercury is in Pisces, you know? I don't like astrology. I'm fine with being a contradiction. I'm fine with being a paradox. I'm fine with being a paradox. I like that better. I'm fine with being a paradox. I can allow for contradiction, and I try to be less judgmental when it comes to certain, at least, hypocrisies. Because as people, we're just paradoxical in nature. You know, it's a thing. So anyway. Well, thank you, Holly. Because I mean, I feel like the whole like synchronicity thing, at least for me, I ain't been doing it for too long. It never gets old. Also, sometimes it's like, okay, thank you. Like, I have a point. This is like, this is legit. We're going somewhere. It makes sense. It comes together. Also, because sometimes if I just talk, I'll forget. Like, if somebody asks me something, going back to my opinions, if it's not something that I can just state, and I know like before, especially, I used to feel like I had to, or not feel like I had to, but like a lot of times, there are many reasons why I arrive at the conclusions that I arrive at. So if someone asks me for my opinion, I'll like tell them, okay, so like there's this thing, and then there's this thing, and there's this other thing, and I do it on here sometimes too. But I'm like, I'm giving all this like supporting evidence for why I reached the conclusion that I reached, or why I think what I think, that like I lose the original point sometimes. It's very easy for me to go on a tangent off of a tangent off of a tangent and not always tie everything back. So when it comes around and we tie it in a bow or a knot or whatever, I'm excited because it's like, okay, I didn't tangent into oblivion, because that happens sometimes. And it's just like, I forgot what I was even talking about. But these are things that, I've learned about myself, things that I've grown to understand because life, and because people that I interact with, and those interactions aren't always necessarily pleasant. But again, going back to me, like, understanding is something that I almost always look for. And I almost never want to just like dismiss anybody. And so it's because of those two things for me that I've been able to sort of grow on the trajectory that I've grown on. And I'm able to I can be critical of myself. I mean, I could be critical of myself without anybody else. I can be my biggest critic and my worst enemy and blah, 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 whatever. But I think there also comes a point where it's like, I can love myself enough to be like, is this something that like I want to work on? Is this something that I want to like improve on, or is it fine? You know what I mean? And let's call it partially like shadow integration. I think shadow integration is such a huge part of self-love that it's easy to miss out on sometimes. Um, Shadow integration is an act of self-love because it's an act of like accepting oneself fully. But then we can take that even further. We can go to that other side of self-love, which is like, do I want to work on improve this? Do I want to hold myself to a little bit of a higher standard? Is this who and how I want to be as I interact with other people, as I interact with the world, or as I interact with myself? Like, do I really want to hold this extremely critical, harsh tone of judgment when it comes to the way that I look at, theorize, rationalize, understand me? And there came a point when I understood that the super critical voice in my head that I used to think was my mom's, like, when I reached the point where I was like, oh, that's me. Like, I cried And again, that was after I was already on a self-love journey, so I had the capacity to cry for myself when I was like, I can't believe that like I was doing that to me. Now, if that realization happened before the whole self-love thing, I don't think I would have cared because I didn't like I didn't want to be. Like, when you don't want to exist, a lot of things don't matter. Uh, so anyway, anyway. Yeah, sometimes you gotta stop and smell the roses. If you don't, how do you know what roses smell like? Because somebody said roses really smell like boo boo. Caroline. Sorry. But self love came out, performance came out, and partnership is at the bottom. Um, and I love this partnership because it feels like it's a partnership of like equals, where it's like we don't have to outshine or we don't have to dim. We can just show up in all of our authenticity completely and fully and have that appreciated and then met with the authenticity of another, which is gorgeous. Um, I think performance it's an interesting energy to come out with self love. Also, we see 6 out of the 7 candles. There's one green candle missing, and we've seen Kuja Chagalia, I think was green. Kuja Chagalia is green. I think Imani is red because Faith was in the middle. Yeah, Imani is red. Kuja Chagalia, self determination question mark, because we saw it earlier, and there's one green candle missing. But I think performance is an interesting card when it comes to self love because that can almost read like certain trauma responses or it can almost read like insecurity when it's not from a place of like full self love. But I think self love and performance, because the performance piece has a connotation of acting, if it's true self love, I can see that being an energy of like when we have to do the thing that we don't really want to do, but we know that it's for our betterment, or we know that we deserve it, or we know that it's just time. And it's because of self love that we do the difficult thing. And the difficult thing can be it can be anything, it can be many things. But it's like just because we do it from that space of self love doesn't necessarily mean that we want to. But I think with have a good night, Steph. I think with the energy of partnerships at the bottom, it almost feels like there's a mutual respect that can be built upon that. And maybe it's an energy of like because we can depend on ourselves to do the things because we learn to do the things, we learn to depend on ourselves to do the difficult things. When we find someone else who can do it for themselves, it helps give and build confidence that like those people can do it for each other. Like if I can make difficult choices and decisions for me and I know that you can make difficult choices and decisions for you, it makes me confident that you can make a difficult choice and decision with consideration for both of us. And I would hope that I would hope that you feel the same. Like I can make a difficult choice and decision and consideration for the both of us. But it's like because self love falls under the love umbrella. Love for others falls under the love umbrella. And so to have both together, that's very Russellian, merging of the higher heart and lower heart, or the inner heart and outer heart, the Saturn heart and the Venus heart, I think, um, where they come together. Friendship over trauma and connection. Like, look at the cards at the bottom of this. These are gorgeous. Partnership, friendship over trauma, and connection. And I think sometimes it can be easy for relationships to fail. It can be easy for certain dynamics, especially if you add in more and more and more people, to fail, because there comes a point where we have to face ourselves and we have to be truthful with ourselves. And when we face ourselves and when we're truthful and honest with ourselves, it makes it easier to not projectile vomit on like a whole bunch of other people and to strain and stress relationships. But again, with the energy of partnership, it's like if you can do those difficult things for you, I have much more confidence that you can do it when it comes to me or when it comes to us. You know what I mean? And then it's like, well, if somebody can't even do it for themselves, then how realistic is it that we expect for them to be able to do it for others? Now, true, there are many people, and probably many who identify as empaths, that can go the extra mile, that can go the distance for other people, but can't do it for themselves. Sometimes it is easier when it's someone else. Sometimes it's easier when it's yourself. You know, we get the empath that we identify does everything for everybody else but neglects themselves. And there's the narcissist that does everything for themselves but neglects everybody else. But again, it's like, you know, when we can do right by ourselves and do right by others, and sometimes, you know, it becomes complicated and complex. But again, bringing this back, the path to love that was at the top, that was crowning the energy on the mirror, with the spirit being in the foundation, sitting in the space of faith in the middle. You know, we got the necromancer and the two of pentacles around the path to love, crowning it. We get the necromancer again and who was it? It was the necromancer. I took a picture. It was the necromancer, the initiate, and it was another major. The high priestess. Oof. Oh, that's heavy. We get the high priestess and the necromancer moon in the foundation. It's the things that we don't know, and then the things that we don't even know that we don't know at our foundation. But with that path to love crowning it, again, I feel like that's the energy of self-love, performance, and partnerships. Because we don't know what life is going to bring us. We don't know when we're going to have a bad day and when other people are going to have a bad day. We don't know what's going to happen in the political scape. We don't know what's going to happen in the environmental scape. But to be able to show up and to be able to be more solid within our internal foundation, again, that's what bringing things back down to the foundation helps us do. Though that's what always reaching up and always reaching out makes it difficult to do. It's to hold presence like in real time. And I think sometimes when we reach up and when we reach out enough, it's almost like we can fall into a pattern. And maybe that's why the gardener, the seven of pentacles, was at the bottom. It's because, like, if as we fall into the pattern of it, we build the habit, and it subconsciously, in a way, improves our foundation. It improves our baseline for being able to handle stuff. I mean, that happens just as we live life, as we experience setbacks, as we experience hurt, pain, trauma, but also as we experience joy, happiness, community, and other things. Like, our library of experiences build out. So we have a greater ability to face more and more and more situations. And sometimes the overall situation may be similar, but the setting may be different, or the characters may be different, or the time might be different. And sometimes those differences can be enough to make it feel completely different. Where, you know, we don't maybe necessarily in the moment see, like, you've already done this. You already know what to do. Like, you've worked through this. You've healed through this before. Sometimes I can be slow, there are some things I need to experience in many, many, many ways. Because just as my brain can be super on top of it when it comes to drawing parallels and creating metaphors, so I can understand one thing in relation to another, and then allow the specifics to build in or to fill in. Sometimes I'm dense and I just don't get it. I play the polarity. I am both. Dumb as a box of rocks that can't shake, and the most brilliant person that you've ever met. Also, like I said, I like paradox, so that's just me. I'm just a weirdo. Um, and here's the part where I lost my train of thought. This is also the part where this video is 2 hours and 45 minutes long, and all the food places are like closing, and I'm trying to get some food. Uh, but what was I talking about? I don't even remember. I don't think I'm. Oh, where we can like show up and we can face life. And how it builds our foundation subconsciously, building out our library of experiences. And when they're different, we may not necessarily catch it. That's where I was. Hey, the train came back. I'm getting better. I think doing these videos actually helps me keep track of my train of thought better rather than just like completely lose it. But yeah, it's all a part of the process of growing up. It's all of the process of maturing. And just like we go through physical maturing through age and our bodies change, we go through spiritual maturing with the growing of the light. Well, spiritual maturing in terms of like, deepening our connection to the divine or lack thereof. Because some people are very on a like, there is no higher than this. And so they may do a more logical approach. But even in that, if that's their modus of connection, then that's their mode of connection. And then we like emotionally mature. And as we physically, spiritually, and emotionally mature, we mature in that like light body type of way. The light body sort of meets us as we mature in all those other areas, right? And maybe it'd be better to think of it as, instead of the light body growing or instead of the light body maturing, the more harmony and the more peace that we can hold between our physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, energetic, and like environmental, the more it just comes forward. It's the jewel in the lotus that blooms from the mud, but it's like it rises to the surface. The flower opens in its own time, you know? I don't know. So, with all that being said, thank you all for being here. This was definitely something. I hope you all have an amazing whenever you see this. If you're not, I hope you have a better one soon. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. Emphasis on acting, emphasis on alignment, emphasis on experience too. And until next time, this has been something. Jupiter, a lot of Saturn.